Hey, Dom, how are
Hey
you?
Mike, what's up?
Not too much. I hope your Christmas was good.
Oh my God, my Christmas is great. How was your Christmas?
Very good. Very good. I spent it out in Ohio with my really good friend family, really.
Yep.
And yep, it's back to work now though. So, but yes,
Back to work. We've got like New Year's coming right
I
up.
know, I know. Well, I'm partly working through part of New Year's, but yeah, I intend to hopefully enjoy a little bit of that too. So,
Well, good, good. Today
what's
we're
the
talking about a fun movie.
what is that movie, Don?
Oh my God, I can't.
How-
So today we're talking about the 1980 movie Hopscotch with Walter Matthau and Glenda Jackson.
yes,
And this is my choice. I chose this movie because I can't remember how long ago I saw this, but immediately it was just a fun movie. Like, if anyone pays attention to this channel and anything I say, my picks, the movies I like fun movies. Doesn't matter if th're horror, sci-fi, or what.
yeah,
I want them to be fun. And it's not just the story that makes it fun, but the people in it. And I feel that this movie, Hopscotch,
yeah,
everyone
epitomizes that.
in
Yeah,
it was having fun, loving what they did.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a great comedy, and actually, it's not only a great comedy at the time, which was 1980, but it's actually very timely now when you think of Julian Assange and Snowden and all that stuff. And for whatever you feel about what they have done and did, um, it's it's also there's somebody that's actually kind of keeping an eye on what the CIA and FBI and all those
Mhm.
nefarious institutions that we have that do
So,
both good and bad.
so for those of you who haven't seen it, and this is actually one of the movies I've chosen that, maybe not a lot of people have seen.
Yeah, yeah,
It is sort of a spy thriller. It focuses on a CIA agent who is maybe
veteran.
tired of their job.
Yep,
They,
but a
they're
serious veteran. Yep,
they're about to be put on a desk job. They're about to be put out to pasture,
yeah,
and they don't like that, and so they're going to leave the agency.
and that is
And
Walter Matthau. Yeah,
yeah, and so if you know anything about spy movies, it's the type of thing. It's the type of agency that you don't leave.
yeah. You don't leave. If you do retire, you retire to a quiet farm somewhere, and you don't talk about any of the things that you did. You keep your mouth shut. Any top security clearance job in this country, you do not talk about things that you know. If you have any sense of what the trouble you can get yourself into, your country, your agency into, keep your mouth shut is the word of operation. But yeah,
But it's funny, like for pop culture spy stories, we started out in the 60s with like, James Bond, I Spy, Mission Impossible. We had these like slick, impressive spy heroes that saved the day
right.
through, some combination of genius and violence.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Watergate happened.
Right.
In like I think 1972 to 1974 was the whole Watergate thing. And after that, spy movies took on a different tone. There was like the 3 Days of the Condor,
Yeah, yeah,
Marathon Man, The Boys from Brazil.
yeah,
It became like darker,
yeah.
more violent.
Well, yeah, and it was so much of that. Plus, it was also just the Vietnam War era. The 1960s, the 1970s brought about a different feeling of, prior to that, it was all just like for God and country, and you never would speak up and say something that was considered against what the status quo was. Um, People started questioning a lot of things, for better or worse. There's times where it's maybe for the worse, but there's also times where people are questioning things that are really, I mean, worth questioning, you know.
Hmm.
Why are we doing this? Why is this happening? You know? So yeah, I think it's both good, can be good and bad, but and this particular agent, he's actually, I think he actually still liked his job. He's a veteran, but he did not like the changes that were happening with the agency, and he saw it going in a dangerous direction.
Yeah,
Uh,
so during in the movie, like the scene starts out, the movie starts out with him like uncovering another spy for the KGB
yeah,
and like interacting with one of the heads of the KGB and doing it in this very gentlemanly manner.
yeah,
Like I'm going to take this information from you. We could make this unpleasant, but like neither one of us wants that.
right, right. Well, and that's I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I was just
No,
gonna
no, go
say,
right ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I do believe that happens way more often than we think, because part of this whole game of whether it's a Cold War or just, you know, whether it's China and the United States, or China and Russia, or Russia and the United States, it's a game of spy versus spy, and we don't want to just cause chaos. We know a lot of what they're doing, what we're doing, and if we can just hold everything so that it's not going too far in one direction, I think. But I did interrupt you. So you continue with what you were.
Well, I think this is a great illustration of how spycraft like straddles the line between spy and ambassador.
Right, right,
Because yeah, like we're enemies,
yeah, sort
but
of,
like
yeah,
we don't want outright war. We
yeah,
want some sort of structure
yeah,
to this.
yeah, oh yeah,
And so Walter Matthau's superiors did not like that he let this KGB guy get away.
right, right,
And
and
so
yeah, go ahead,
they're going to desk him. They're going to put him behind a desk.
yeah, and that was, it's like he said later, it's like, you know, he tried to emasculate me, so this is my this is my reaction to that. And it's true. You know, Ned Beatty, he's a great actor. He plays a great villain. Um,
Phenomenal. I think he's a very underrated actor.
if you think about some of the roles, Deliverance, although there's some, I mean, he was great in Deliverance. Everybody remembers
Mhm.
Squeal like a pig, but he was great in Deliverance, and you remember him in his roles. He's another actor, as you said before, no small parts, because even when he's playing a small part, and he's not in this, but he's great, and you do remember his performances. But
It's funny, like I know Ned Beatty. He's a famous actor. He's been around for a while.
sure.
I did not realize how many things he was in until I started
Oh
researching
yeah,
him
yeah,
for this movie.
yeah,
He is an amazing
yeah.
actor. Like he's been in like hundreds of things.
Oh yeah, he pops up in these roles. You'll be watching a film and you'll go, "I didn't know Ned Beatty was." I mean, that's the way it is for me anyway. I've definitely seen that.
Well, he has said that he does not want starring roles.
Yeah, yeah,
He is targeting supporting roles because
yeah,
he says to be a star is like a sort of trap.
yeah, yeah. And that, to tell you the truth, that's more of a. He's probably been able to play more diverse roles because of that. You know, the smaller parts that
He's been
he
able to
fits in.
act.
Yeah, I
He hasn't
mean,
been like locked into a certain thing.
yeah, yeah, and he can pretty much do anything. I've seen him do comedy. I've seen him do, you know, he plays a serious bad guy. And
Yep.
now another one that's in this is Herbert Loam, who was chief
Amazing.
chief inspector with the Pink Panther movies, and he plays that great, like the nervous twitch villain in those, and you know, he was great as the Russian spy, you know,
Hmm.
that him and Walter Matthau had that very sophisticated, you know, kind of like working against each other, but still working with each other.
That's the thing. They knew each other.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and respected each other.
right.
That was a huge part of that, was the
Mhm.
respect that they had for each other. They would, yeah, that you couldn't necessarily trust the other one, but they would still do each other a favor. That sometimes
Mhm.
that one would give information or whatever when it benefited, the two of them, and they would do it in a gentlemanly manner.
They were looking at the long game.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like, obviously one would want the upper hand, but
yeah,
they both wanted stability. They both
yeah,
wanted the status quo.
yeah, yeah. And I would really hope in the world that we live in, which is a really screwed up world a lot of times. I would really hope in the world that we live in, because you look at the other countries, like you look at the Chinese people, they're great people. You look at the Russian people, they're good people. And we're all playing this game. It's the leaders. They're all playing this game of like, it's madmen running our countries, and on all sides, and we're playing this game. So I would hope that some of the guys that are playing the game of spy versus spy would sometimes be able to play nice with each other, at least a little bit anyway. You naturally, you can't trust somebody that's working against you. But
I mean, you got to realize like the people of any country
yeah,
are not their government.
no, no,
Like
not at
people
all.
anywhere, they're just
Yeah.
trying to like live their life.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, anybody that's visited China or Russia usually has a great time. I mean, go to Russia, you can have some great drinking buddies over there. The Chinese people are extremely friendly. They love showing you their culture, and like I said, I do not believe for a second that it's the people of these countries that are the bad guys. It's the leaders, and it's the way the system is
Yeah,
rigged. You know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, getting back to the movie.
Okay, but getting back, you're the one drawing us back to the movie this time. Normally it's me. Yeah,
Well,
getting back to the movie, one thing about this movie that I can say, if I had to define it in a single word, it would be fun.
right, right. I
And and
totally agree
and,
with
and
that.
that's going
Yeah,
to be a theme.
yeah,
Whenever I choose the movie, I choose movies for fun for the most
yeah,
part. It may be a horror, it may be a sci-fi,
yeah,
but there's just some element of fun to this.
yeah, yeah. And I have too many motivations when I choose a movie, but that you're completely right on that. This is a truly fun movie.
Yeah,
And
there's almost no violence.
no,
There's no
no,
gunplay. No one gets killed. There's
no,
a little romance.
yeah. Yeah, no, and the romance actually is a very cute. Yeah, that's another thing that's funny because watching this movie, the first time I saw this, I think I was in my 20s, maybe my mid 20s, and I remember like looking at, and Glenda Jackson she's been in so many good roles. She's very good, very competent actress.
Mhm.
And I remember like when I was younger, and by the way, Walter Matthau was 60 when he did this role. I didn't even realize he was.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that old because he was very spry, and I mean, yeah, he's supposed to be an older agent, but he was actually older. But Glenda Jackson, I don't think I appreciated her when I was younger as an actor. When you're younger, you tend to, it's like, oh, the cute chick or whatever, but it's like she was so good. Her acting chops are great.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm watching her again after a number of years. I was like, man, she is so good. And I've seen her, like I said, she chooses scenery. She's so good. But and Sam Waterston, that's another one that
I know.
you
I
know,
had forgotten he was in that.
yeah, and actually he's so good in this because he really doesn't like Meyerson or what Meyerson's doing, but he's trying to quietly cooperate, and he really respects and likes Walter Matthau's character, and he's got to do what he's got to do for his job, but you can tell he really doesn't like doing what he's doing.
Acting wise, he does a great job portraying straddling the line between his duty
Yeah,
to the organization
yeah,
and his admiration for Walter Matthau's character,
yeah.
Kendrick.
And one of the scenes that's really funny is when Walter Matthau it's which is real hilarious. Walter Matthau makes the call from inside Meyerson's house, and they're like, "He's in your house." When they trace the call, and of course they all end up outside of Meyerson's house, and there's Meyerson right there, Ned Beatty, and he's
Yep.
going to tell him, "We don't need to shoot up the house now."
Oh, that was a
house.
great scene.
Yeah, and they're firing gas canisters in the house, and they're shooting into the house, and he's like, "Can we stop? Can we?" But yeah, so many
I gotta
funny
say,
things.
like, we're doing these movies week to week,
Yeah,
so there's somewhat of a time crunch. If
yeah.
I had had the time, I would have loved to have read the book this movie was based on.
Oh, and I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, there must be a. Well, do you know who the author was
Yeah,
offhand?
yeah. Well, I've got it right here. It's
Oh, yeah.
Brian Garfield.
Okay, yeah. I'm actually going to look that up and read
So
it.
so
I bet that'd be a
Garfield
great read.
Garfield's novel evidently was a lot darker than
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
it
I'll
was
bet it was.
it was sort of Walter Matthau's contribution
Yeah.
to make this into a comedy.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
This
yeah.
originally was not a comedy.
Yeah, yeah. Now, was Walter Matthau the original consideration? Do you know for the role, or did they want to go?
I do not. I have not heard that anyone else was considered, and even beyond that, the director, oh, what was his name? Neem. The director Neem.
Yeah.
I read that he was a lifelong friend with Matthau.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, now maybe you knew about this, but David Matthau was in this,
Yep.
and David Matthau is. I thought it was his brother. I always assumed it was his brother. That's his son.
Yep.
But that is,
What did he play? I forget.
he was that other agent. The one, I believe he's the agent that gets kidnapped. Remember when Walter Matthau, when he sneaks out of the house and jumps the agent, and he
Mm-hmm.
puts him in the pickup truck, and the guy goes, I used to respect you." And he's like, "Get out of the truck." But no, like I said, great cast, and now David Matthau, I think he was on a couple of sci-fi, like maybe even a sci-fi TV series or something. But he's had a couple of roles that I really wasn't that aware of him, and but he's been around, and he's still acting, I believe. So, but yeah, again, I don't know how old he was for this role. I certainly he's a little older for this role, but not probably in his 30s, I guess. But yeah, Matthau was 60s. So
Yeah, that's amazing to me. I did not know that.
yeah, yeah. And again, he's certainly spry. And Walter Matthau, though, is one of these kind of guys that it doesn't matter, when he's acting, he's just as effective in his later years as he is for his earlier roles. Like I absolutely love The Odd Couple, the original
Yeah,
Odd Couple with him
yeah.
and Jack Lemmon. And I mean, that is a great role that he played with that one, and how him and Jack Lemmon always met, because they were in a few different movies together. We all know the later ones, The Grumpy Old Men, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like those. I do like those, but they're more later Hollywood shtick. And
I keep meaning to go back and watch some of Matthau's earlier stuff because from what I hear, his switch to a comedic actor
yeah,
is relatively late. He started off in a lot of crime dramas.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But when you start seeing him change to comedy, I think that's when he really actually he found his niche, and he found his true. It's like he slipped into gear. He was he was in
Well, I
third.
think it was the Bad News Bears.
But
I
yeah,
think that was such a success for him.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and who would have thought like he would have been that good with kids,
I
like working,
know.
yeah, because I mean, there's been a lot of actors that have played those kind of roles. Yeah, they stuck. Who was it? They stuck the Rock in a role. He's like all these guys, like action heroes and stuff. They've stuck him in roles like with kids, like, oh, that's going to be funny, and a lot of them didn't do that well.
I got
He
to
was,
say, you can't deny the success of Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not a
Absolutely.
tumor.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you know something. Schwarzenegger actually he surprises you with some of the stuff. That movie Jingle All the Way is like a bad movie that still makes me really laugh. He's funny as a father that's like trying to be an action hero for his kid and everything. And so yeah, like I said, Schwarzenegger, every once in a while he pulls off something you think, wow, I never would have thought he would have done, well at all with this one. But
Yeah,
he
I can remember seeing him in the Terminator and thinking, well, great movie,
yeah,
but like, how far is this guy going to go? What's his
yeah.
range? And oh my God, he's just a screen presence.
Yeah, he can be funny. And it's true. Every once in a while, you see, who cracks me up. Like, we're way off subject here, but Mike Tyson, some of the comedic roles that he's played, no, I keep thinking Wedding Crashers, but the Hangover series, he's
Mhm.
funny in those. I mean, they're smaller parts, but he's really funny every time he comes out and he's doing comedy. And again, like I said, I wonder if Walter Matthau really thought he was going to be suited for comedy when he first started really doing it. But my God, the man is, he's
I
a
don't know if any actor knows what their niche is going to be.
no, you kind of find it. It's like anything in life, you find your niche.
Okay, to rein this back into the movie,
Yeah, yeah, pull back.
I got to talk about the music
Okay, yeah, go for it.
because the music was such a huge part of this movie.
Yes, yep,
So, from what I hear, from what I read, people were talking about the movie and the soundtrack, and Mathau's agent said, you'd really make Walter Matthau happy if you put some Mozart in there.
oh yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah,
and that changed everything for the movie. It really influenced the movie because then the director said, wouldn't it be great if Mathau's character, Kendig,
right,
was a Mozart fan?
yeah, yeah,
And so we hear Mozart all the time. We see him like basically rocking out to
oh
Mozart,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
singing opera.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's hilarious when he shows up at the border, and and the border agent gets into a whole conversation with him about, well, what is that piece now? And he's they're going back and forth. Yeah, no, you could tell they really made that an aspect of what the film was centered around. So yeah, when he's writing this, he's always telling Glenda Jackson, hey, could you put a record on, and
So
go ahead.
they were trying to like make the sound for the soundtrack, and they were trying
Sure.
to pick Mozart tracks that went along with the scene.
Right.
And they did it fairly well until they got to the scene with Walter Matthau's character writing the memoirs on a typewriter. And they're
Okay.
like, we can't find a track to go with this.
Huh.
And someone said, well, why don't you ask Walter Matthau?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Walter Matthau brought some of his own collection
Oh,
in
wow. Wow. That's great.
that ended up going perfectly with that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I can't think of what was playing at the time when he was writing, but I do remember that like everything just really gelled and fit. And I was very aware of the music in the background. That's why it boggles my mind now why I can't think of what was playing, but it was really fitting, and he just seemed happy with doing the scene too. So I think he had a lot of fun with this
And
film.
it seems like everyone had a lot of fun. It
Yeah,
sounded like um, Neem, the director, didn't think that Glenda Jackson would want this role,
right,
but she thought she heard that Walter Matthau was going to be in it, and she's
right.
like, "Oh, I would love to work with him again,"
Yeah, yeah.
because she was with him in the movie House Calls.
Yes, and actually that is a very funny, very good film.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and see, that's another movie that I remember when I was younger, I remember when that movie came out, I didn't have a whole lot of interest in seeing it, and I saw it years later. And that's one of the reasons why maybe when you're a certain age, you should not like totally, if a movie doesn't interest you at the time, maybe because you're young and you're maybe not as well rounded with your whether it's music taste or movie taste or whatever, as you age and grow older, broaden your your interests, and and that's one of the things, because I finally said, okay, I'll check it out, and I love the movie, and that's another one we should talk about that one. uh, so
We've
add
got
that to the
so many
list.
movies to talk
Yeah,
about.
add that to the list. But yes, they do great together. I love the scene where they because when you first see the movie for the first time, like when I first saw it, I remember thinking to myself, are these like agents that are doing a whole thing of like, word game? And but it was I think now looking back at it, they were actually like almost like reenacting their first date or something, the first time together or whatever it was. They're throwing out all these little fun little innuendos and clues and things like that, and talking about wine, and is wine important? And she's like,
So
yes, it's very.
that scene where they meet,
Yes.
that was basically written by Matthau.
Oh, was it? Yeah, 'cause boy, it was a beautiful scene.
The
It's
Neem,
wonderfully done.
the director Neem said that Matthau was so influential in the rewrites to the script. He
Wow.
added so much
Yeah,
that he could have gotten credit for that.
he probably should have gotten credit. Credit as a writer. My God,
Mhm.
that's
Yep.
because it sounds like he. I mean, if he wrote that scene or any part of that scene, I have to give him full credit. It's a terrific, wonderful scene.
Oh, it's an amazing scene.
Yeah, and it's a great way of introducing her as his girlfriend
Mhm.
and paramour. So and they have such a great, fun, close relationship. They're I mean, it's like they're married. They have so many like little things, little quirks and tricks and things like that with their relationship that's just fun. Just seeing them in the kitchen together, and there's one scene where he's looking around for something. She says, "Right in front of you." He was the glasses or something like that. He's like, "Where,
No,
where are
those
we?"
two, they had such chemistry
Yeah,
on screen.
yeah, yeah. It was very natural. You felt like they were really a couple. I mean,
Mhm.
so many times they throw actors and actresses together that just don't have that mesh, and they really did. I mean, you truly believe they were a couple. So,
Mhm.
but,
Mhm.
and you were rooting for him the whole time too. You're
Oh
like,
yeah.
he's got to pull this off, and as they're closing in, because I remember thinking to myself, how is he going to live? How is he going to like? How is he going to make it through this? And and he does, and not only does he do it, but he does it in a very spectacular way. I know, like, again, we didn't give the disclaimer at the start of this, but anyone, if you followed our channel at all, you should know it's called spoiler alert for a reason. We completely go through a movie, break it down, talk about the scenes. So if you haven't seen it, you need to beforehand. But no, as far as like um how this ends, and I'm not gonna like necessarily try to just blow it, but how this ends is so fun. And again, I can't say how it, I don't want to say, because if anyone hasn't seen it, but
Well, we don't need to say. I mean, it's a
yeah,
fun romp.
yeah,
If you're gonna see it at all,
yeah.
you'll
I
figure it out. You'll see
I
it.
I will say this much, and because that was 1980 when they made
Mhm.
this, which to me, because I'm an old guy, to me, 1980 doesn't even seem that far back. It's a long way away. It was way back, but but again, like the way that he decides to figure out how to how to figure out how to end this, um, that in itself, when he went to goes to the electronic guy and asked for that part to be made so that he could rig this up, it's spectacular. And for people maybe back then, it was a little harder to think, can somebody actually do that? Sure, you can. Look at what they're doing with drones. Look at what they're doing
Mhm.
with remote. I mean, hey, look, drones are used for movies and shots that you never ever could have got. Now that you can do with a drone, it's amazing what you can do. And so that's the hint for anyone that hasn't seen the movie, how this ends. That's the spoiler.
Every spy has to have their cue,
Yes,
you
yes,
know, and
yep,
he couldn't go to the CIA's cue
Right,
He
right.
hired his own.
Yeah, yeah. And that's another thing is that Ned Beatty's character, Myerson, he was so egotistical. Like if you watch in that scene when what happens with the, at that final scene, he's so sure because
Yeah.
he was involved in what he figures, I took him out, and he hated the guy, and so he was so damn sure, and his ego was so big. It's like, well, that's the end of him, and he just turns his back, and you could see the other agent there. He's standing there, and he's got a little smile. He goes, "Well, I hope he stays dead," and he's just kind of got the smile on his face, and you can tell he's like, "Yeah, I know he's not dead. There's no way that he went out like that." And plus just what happened was so spectacular that it's like no way it happened like that. But again, uh, what I consider to be a pretty spectacular way of him solving that problem.
This is one of those movies, and I don't know if this is a genre or not. It's one of those movies where there's people who are of an older age, and they're like looking with disappointment on the newer generation.
Yeah,
Like I've seen it a lot in mob movies
right,
where we keep the structure, we know how things work, and now there's these young upstarts.
right, right,
They're just trying to disrupt everything.
yeah, yeah,
I've seen it with mob movies, I've seen it with samurai movies, and it's just nice to see it in a spy movie.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. um well, again, like I said, I really believe that the movie is actually it's aged so well with
Mhm.
what was going on in the past. And it's what's that line about, meet the new boss same as the old boss.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and this is really true in this movie. I mean, it's you're 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 seeing the same things happening nowadays that were going on then, and maybe even way worse.
Mhm.
So what people are
Mhm.
doing, uh, again, like I said, you can think what you want about whether it's Assange or Snowden or whatever, for better or worse, but some things sometimes, certain things you think to yourself, maybe we do need a whistleblower once in a while because some of these people are taking things, to a real bad place. So yeah, very timely movie, and that's another reason why people should probably watch it. Um,
I had to look up the timeline.
yeah,
The Cold War was still very much going
yeah,
on.
yeah. It
This
was.
movie came out.
Yeah, well, I can't even think right now when they tore down the Berlin Wall, but
Early 90s, like
yeah,
90, 91, I think.
yeah. So again, yeah, you're right. It was in full bloom. We were still, I mean, and I can't say that things are things are better now too. In some ways, I've thought about this many times, but sometimes I think to myself, almost wish the Cold War was still going on because everybody was kind of playing nice. I'm not nice maybe, but we were like we knew what we could do, and there was kind of a balance, and now everything's just kind of like,
I guess the Cold War is maybe preferable to like outright war that we're
yeah,
seeing.
there's some scary stuff that's going on in our world today. And so, like I said, I was scary back then, but like I said, I kind of didn't worry as much about things like a nuke going off or somebody starting something. And nowadays, there's so many countries that have them and are irresponsible with them, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, you could actually have fun with spy movies back. I guess you still can now, but it's so much more serious. James Bond was actually kind of fun back then.
Mhm.
You look at a James Bond movie today, and it's like it's not as fun in many ways. It's much more serious, and the but and
Well, it's
that's why,
also it's much longer.
yeah, yeah,
Like my God, like James Bond movies being over 2 hours long.
yeah,
The,
oh
the,
yeah,
the latest the latest Mission Impossible, what blew my mind is I've seen Mission Impossible movies,
right,
and like the ones I've seen top 2 hours
right, right,
screen time. This latest one, top 2 hours, and it was part one.
Yeah, yes.
I'm like,
Yeah,
how long do you
yeah.
expect me to watch this movie?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like, and I haven't even followed all of like the Mission Impossible ones and things like that. I love the early James Bond ones. I like the later ones too. Um, and that's something at some point we will have to do. I mean, I would love to do like, Dr. No or Goldfinger or something like that sometime. Maybe to start it out and maybe do a few of the James Bond ones. But because those are always fun. And even
Mhm.
stuff like Our Man Flint and there's some crazy there's some
Mhm.
crazy spy films that have been done over the years. So yeah, we should definitely since you started it with this one, and this is absolutely a fun. I'm really glad you selected this because
I love this movie. This
yeah,
this holds a special place in my heart.
yeah. Well, it does in mine too, and the fact that I revisited it today again, right before we watched it, really, and I was like, man, I wouldn't say I forgot about it, but I was like, more dim in my memory. I was like, man, this is such a fun movie,
Mhm.
and just the name is perfectly fitting for it. He had he was having them jumping all over the place, and the funny things he would do when he was calling. Like there's one point where they're talking to the Russian agent, and they're like, "We can't find him," and he goes, "Well, he's right here in London," and they're like, they all look around each other like he's in London. So yeah, he was always one step ahead of them.
Yeah.
So
There's so many great movies to do, and that we will do
yeah,
on
yeah,
this channel. But I think I've said before, one of the things I want to use this channel for is to introduce to people movies that I feel don't have enough love. And
yeah,
this
yeah,
movie firmly fits into that. Like,
yeah,
I think this is a great movie.
yeah. To tell
And
you,
not everyone does. I got to say to viewers who are thinking I might want to see this, some reviewers have described this movie as James Bond on Valium.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It absolutely is fun, and it's true. This movie probably does get overlooked a lot. If you were sitting people down and saying, "Hey, let's watch a spy movie tonight," they'd be pulling out Mission Impossible. They'd be pulling out James Bond. They'd pull out tons of movies before they would ever even think of this. Most people, and you'd have to be more familiar with Walter Matthau's works for one thing, or Glenda Jackson or something. Um, this movie I think is a hidden gem. It shouldn't be a hidden gem. It's well known. Was well made. It was not a small budget movie, but it has been kind of like put on the shelf. So you did a great service here by if anyone watches this and actually enjoys it, then please, if you haven't seen this movie, please watch it. It's great.
It's funny, like one of the accolades that
Yeah.
this movie has is it's part of the Criterion Collection.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And every time I looked up this movie, it was associated with the Criterion Collection. And I've heard about the Criterion Collection.
Oh yeah, I own many of them. Yeah, I think
I
that's the
didn't know
case.
exactly what that meant.
Yeah,
So the
yeah,
Criterion Collection is at its most basic,
yeah,
it's a film distribution
yeah,
company.
and it's
But
important films usually. Yeah,
evidently it has been instrumental in some of the um, advances in film distribution. For instance, the whole letterbox thing,
yeah,
the dark lines from the top of the bottom to make the TV screen into the same ratio as a theater screen.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
The
was
correct aspect ratio. Yeah, absolutely.
that was spearheaded by the Criterion
Yeah, yeah, and
Collection.
and to tell you the truth, like once, because hey, I grew up. I'm old, and I grew up watching movies. When I was a kid, I was watching movies in the 1960s on a black and white TV.
Mhm.
It was a 4:3 or 4:3 ratio. And so anything you watched, if the movie had been shot in any kind of widescreen, like the picture behind me is that's a widescreen shot. And if that shot was put on um, television, it would have been done most likely in pan and scan, where whatever actor was talking, like say Glenda Jackson was talking, you would see a shot of her face and her mouth moving. And then when Walter Matthau was speaking, then they would move to him, or they would crunch it on both sides. And then when the letterbox came out, people were complaining and saying, I don't like the black bars. And I remember hearing people in stores sometimes. I remember being in a Walmart and I actually started like telling a lady, you're actually seeing more of the movie. And she's saying, no, they're cutting the movie. And I'm saying they're not, that you don't understand. So not to go too far into aspect ratio, but that is very important. And that's what Criterion, that was one of the things, but they also have been remastering many, many important films.
Yeah,
So
they
I
they
love
also
Criterion.
started the commentary.
Yeah. Yes.
So like,
Yes.
like the director or actors commenting during
Yeah.
the movie, the scene, that was started by them.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they believe me, Criterion, Scorsese works with Criterion, and he's all about, restoring and preservation of old film. So yeah, they're so important. And if anyone that doesn't know about Criterion, if you can get the film on a Criterion version, you most likely have the very best
Yep.
version of that film, because they're all about getting the film done in the right way. They usually get rights to the film, then they remaster it and sell it, and the film company that owns it, the studio that owns it, gets their film restored by Criterion. In exchange for that, there's a whole deal they work out. But Criterion does it right, and they're an amazing company. I have nothing but praise for
Yep.
Criterion.
Yep. Same here.
Yeah, they actually had a streaming channel for a while, and it was amazing. They still do.
Okay.
Actually, I started to say they don't, but they do. And actually, I've watched some of their streaming. If you watch on Criterion, if you watch their streaming, it you're sometimes you're mind boggled how good their streaming is, because streaming is never as good as the actual 4K or Blu-ray or whatever version, but they actually stream a pretty good version of it. So that's another one. I'm not going to try to just do a do an advertisement for
No,
them.
by Criterion.
But yeah, I would say because I do believe we should promote that company. It's important.
They do seem like they love
Yeah.
movies just
Yeah.
like we do.
Yes. Yeah. So they deserve the praise, I think. All praise to Criterion. but
But that being said, I think we may have said everything we've had to say about
yeah.
this movie.
Well, we could always come up with more, Don, but
Well, believe me, we
yeah.
could talk for hours.
Yeah, but
anyone that knows us knows that.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, no, but I think you're right. I think we kind of did this one up pretty well. So and
But bottom line, this is just a fun movie.
Yeah, it is. It is. And actually I'm gonna try to I think it's my turn for the next one. So
Yep, your turn.
I should try to work on finding something fun also, because you got me in that mode, that mindscape right now. So yeah, I'll try to come up with something, and when we meet again, we'll have that one ready to go. So, but Dom, it's been great talking to you. And
yeah, always great talking to you.
Before we totally wrap it up, what do we got to say, Dom, that you never like to say? Hit that
like button. God, like and subscribe.
Dom
hit
hates
that
it.
like and subscribe button.
Yeah, but we have to do it. We have to ask that, please. It helps us. It helps us continue. Please, and if you subscribing's free. It's not like we're asking for money
yet.
No, but if we ever go that way with some kind of service like that, there'll be some kind of premium. But at any rate, like I said, it's free. So all it means really is that you're supporting us. You're actually getting a chance to see when we put up a new one, and hitting the likes, really, it does do a lot. It helps us. So
and you'll get to see my goats again.
Yeah, that's right, Dom. If you haven't seen Dom's goat charts that he's done, he did one last week, and it was great. Dom raises goats, and that's Dom and Lisa. His
No,
wife-
that's it. I raised them. We have them.
yeah. Well, they raise you and Lisa.
They raise us.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, if no one's seen a baby goat, it's the cutest thing in the world. But anyway, we won't go too far into that. But the next week we'll have another new one, something hopefully that's fun and will amuse you and educate you, whatever. And but yeah, Dom, I enjoyed the talk. You picked a great movie, and I want to thank you for that. So
This is always great. Always
Yeah.
fun, man.
always fun. So Dom, hey, I will see you here next week. And
Next year.
yeah, actually it will be next year. Yeah, that's right. So for everyone out there too, thank you for the support, for subscribing, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy holidays. Thank you.